We are now. Greetings.
Oh, I see. Still trying to figure this out. Hello, everybody. It's time for Spirit Talk Podcast. It seems like it's been a long time, even though time is speeding up, feels like. Just that there's so much that's happened. It's been packed into these. Gosh.
Yes.
When you think about it, it's so much has happened over 2 weeks. I should probably make a list. So we're here with Spirit Talk Podcast, as usual, with our resident astrologer, Kathy Beal.
Greets all.
Aquarian, empowermentunlimited.net. I'm Annette Dion. This is my channel. And we do this every couple of weeks. Next week is a full moon. Exactly 1 week from today. And occasionally we do pop-ups. So welcome. Tell your friends that we're here.
Tons of fun. Tell them to show up.
Yeah, I know. It's good stuff for donations only and readings. So today's the 16th. Just a little bit of bookkeeping. So we are kind of working on this way of setting things up that when Kathy gets 2 astrology readings requested by people and they sign up for readings with her at empowermentunlimited.net. Is that where they book an appointment?
Yes.
Okay. So they can just do it there. When she gets 2, that's the go ahead for our next show, which we're pretty good. We're striving for like every 2 weeks. I'm working really hard on getting people to understand, because it takes a while, that we're working for free and we're dependent on your business and your donations. And thank you to those of you who have booked readings with both of us and who have donated, and we really, really appreciate it. And just those who understand that we're doing this as a service, but we have bills to pay too. So thank you.
We're halfway to the next Spirit Talk podcast, so I only need one more.
Oh, okay. Good. Wow, we're ahead. That's great.
Yep.
So we will, to the best of our ability, we'll keep a little bit of an eye on the chat. It's kind of confusing when we're having a conversation, but this is a conversation about what's going on with people in the political arena. We focus quite a bit on the nefarious characters because they're more interesting. And those are the questions that people have. So, you want to start with the aftermath of the solar eclipse that was 2 weeks ago? No,
yes.
It was last week. See,
it was last week. See. All right, a couple things. This solar eclipse, I was having a really nice conversation with a client today. A friend of mine, Jill M. Jackson, who runs a spiritual center in Flowood, Mississippi, outside of Jackson, Mississippi, was interviewing me about it. And I realized that the solar eclipse, which is a supercharged new moon installing a new operating system, was in the sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, god of war, planet of push, aggression, highly masculine, and Chiron in Aries was right next to the eclipse, which is my marker for toxic masculinity. But so much of the rest of the sky, so much of the cluster around the eclipse was feminine. Venus is in Aries, and she's in her warrior goddess mode there. Mercury, ruling our minds and communication, was next to Eris, which is an asteroid named for Mars's sister, the goddess of discord. So she's a fighter goddess also. And Mars himself was in feminine mode. He was in the sign of Pisces. So the whole thing was wired for the feminine being on the rampage. So watch for that. Okay.
And you called it supercharged.
Supercharged.
Right. And kind of an overhaul, right?
It's like installing a new operating system, a complete reset.
Can you say more about installing a new operating system?
Okay, think about what happens when you go to you're on your computer and suddenly it just shuts down and says Windows is updating. You go, no, and you have to wait, and it does it of its own accord, and then it shows up again and things are different and you have to look for where stuff is. Or sometimes you decide yourself you're going to do it. But a lot of times it happens completely outside your control. And so there's a period of time when the device goes black and then it comes back up, theoretically upgraded. And that is the analogy for what happens in a solar eclipse.
So it doesn't all change. It's just, it doesn't.
No, there is something that has been reset and in theory upgraded. And this one has to do with our abilities to push ourselves forward. Now, you would think Aries being such a lone me, I'm just going to go do this energy. Interestingly, think of how many people gathered with others to experience it. So it was this bizarre, self-actualizing, self-determining, motivating reset, but in the company of tons of other people. And think of all the sharing that happened. So just to remember that part, and remember the feminine came back on fire through this, and just stick May 29 in the back of your head. That's the day that Mars, planet of push, is going to hit the degree of this solar eclipse and activate something. It will implement something. That's a trigger. So if anyone I'm going to talk about later today, if that was clear that something was set off in their chart involving the eclipse, there's something big happening that is a moment at the end of May. And if it was touching stuff in your own chart, just know that there's going to be a playing out period. Usually it's 6 months, but this one we're going to see something as early as the end of May. But that's just for the eclipse. There are 2 other things going on worth talking about. Do you have more you want to talk about with the eclipse before I?
Well, you're saying usually it's like 6 months before you kind of notice.
No, it takes that. It can play out over that period of time.
Okay. And that means that we can expect massive changes in our own lives between now and May 28th, you said?
Well, there's another factor going on that is the really big change one. But in terms of this one, this is like, I'm going to go do what I'm going to go do, like get out of my way. I'm going to go do, you go do your stuff. I'm going to do my stuff. And then there's something at the end of May that is the moment of, and we're off, bam, for each of us somehow.
It feels like that now.
Well, there's other stuff going on.
The 29th, did you say?
Of May, yeah. It doesn't mean it's not happening now. I am merely saying that there's a noticeable implementation moment, a trigger moment at the end of May. I'm
thinking that from what you're saying, with all these people coming together and we had like this common, experience, the experience that unified us all, we're all experiencing this cosmic event, and people feeling more like Aries, I am, this is my identity, this, because Aries is I am, if you want to give a little motto or slogan. I think that can be extremely beneficial because people can be focused on their own unique way of presenting in the world and their unique way of serving, and that we kind of recognize in one another we're autonomous. We have our own identities. We have things in common, but I'm not you and you're not me, right? And certain people have talents in different areas. I'm not an accountant. I appreciate people that are, right? Or not.
They're good friends to have.
I couldn't if my life depended on it, do that kind of work. But that's the beauty of us all together. Wayne Dyer used to always say, in his talks, he'd say, I'm not, if my screen door breaks, I don't try to fix it myself. That's what screen door repairmen are for, right? You call the person who that's their thing. And that's the only way I feel that we can really grow and make a better world, is if we all kind of hone in on what makes us different and how we can contribute that to the collective. Another thing I want to mention is that in my tea leaf reading, I keep getting a lot of tea leaves ending up in the in Venus. again and again and again, and they're like big figures. There was a dragon. There was somebody that looked like an ancestor with a big dress and like a headdress. There was there's been and one night it was like a figure of a woman kind of slouched over, like with this, because this abortion situation in Arizona came up right around maybe the next day, or when was that?
It's in the thick of the who can even keep it straight anymore?
Yeah, it was a couple pivotal things were going on, and then that happened. I think it was last Friday, Thursday, Friday, the end of last week. And I've been saying for years, and you probably have been saying too, that the women are going to be the difference, the change makers.
Oh yeah.
The women are going to lead the way. The women are who's going to take down.
Yep.
You know
they're
who.
doing it.
And I did want to ask you about, because at PNN last night, I was reading about Trump, and I saw the sun, which is why I wanted to ask you again to remind us of what the solar eclipse and what the impact was on Trump's chart, because I'm sure you talked at length about it, as I recall.
Well,
you said something major, I think, around the solar eclipse.
Okay, so remember I said there was this giant pileup of energy in Aries.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with fighter manifestations of the feminine. Well, most of it was in his in the part of his chart that deals with debt, with loans, with business deals, with criming, and the rest of it was in the House of Legal Matters. So it fits. It just fits. And it was also in a challenging catalytic relationship with two planets in his chart that I see as the signature for the Trump organization. He has Venus, which is women, and Saturn, all kinds of stuff, in Cancer in the 11th house, which is Trump org, but it's also how he operates. So there are like limitations. This could also be something with, money from other entities, from people or whatever. So this eclipse slammed into that, bringing it to the fore. And at the eclipse, Mars, ruler of the eclipse, was in a really easy flow with that, meaning that there are men going after this. Like there's an answering coming for
men going after
the signature for the stuff he did with money.
All right. And okay, so it looks like what's going on with him, with that 12th house aspect, seems to me, it feels like the women taking him down is in that what's going on in the 12th house.
That's how he set it all up, but there isn't really there isn't really anything in his 12th house that speaks to women, except his Pluto is there, and that's subterranean impulses. That's criminal activity, that's sexual stuff, that's sexual, the assault, all of that is part of it, doing things with back-ended deals. I have two other things I want to say about the current astrology, but let's deal with Trump while we brought him up.
Yeah, and the Truth Social thing seems to tie into all that
too.
all
of it, if it just plummeting.
Thank you.
But I ran a chart for
Hello, everyone.
the day that the gag order is set for hearing. And
25th?
23rd.
That's on the full moon.
It is indeed. Well, maybe I should start with the full moon. No, actually, let me wait to go with Trump. So two other things. This weekend, we're coming into the biggest astrological event of the year, and it is bigger than the solar eclipse.
Oh my gosh. And the sun's going into Taurus.
It's Jupiter and Uranus conjunct in Taurus. So Jupiter is the influence that makes everything huge. It expands stuff. It can ultimately be beneficial, but it's real indulgent. It's like, well, why stop at 10? Why not have 100? It's, really indulgent and over the top. And it can sometimes make things cartoonish.
What do you mean?
Uranus is,
What's cartoonish? What do you mean by cartoonish?
like almost like laughable, huge, like
Oh,
huge,
okay.
large, like really, like just like somebody drew a cartoon, a caricature of something.
Does like him falling asleep in court, would you consider that cartoonish? I did.
I think other things. But anyway, just to
Okay.
finish what's going on right now. So it is meeting with Uranus, which is the cosmic agent of unexpected change. Uranus is an awakener. It's a liberator. It throws lightning bolts. It's a planet of epiphanies, seeing things radically differently. I mean, think of you're walking, it's dark outside and you're walking along and there's this thunderclap and then lightning goes and you suddenly see the landscape that you couldn't see
Oh,
before because it was
oh,
dark.
yeah.
So these two together in the sign that deals with money, resources, women, banking, food supply, the arts, sensory experience of life. So there's going to be, and okay, it's been building. Some people have already had a sense of breakthrough. Uranus was in this spot a lot of last year. So the area of life has already been kind of sensitized for each of us. But some people, if it's directly hitting something in your chart, this is an amazingly exciting time. And then from the beginning of next week until the end of May, we have a 5 to 6 week period of assimilating whatever it means. Okay. Often something big will happen and you just kind of sit there and go for a while. We'll be immediately dealing with it. And by the new moon in Taurus in May, very early, we'll be able to take whatever the puzzle pieces are, or it's like somebody knocking a game board over, taking the pieces and putting them together again in a way that we like. So where is this happening in what's chart? Well, this is really, really close to the doorway to his career house, which is going to get slammed from multiple directions by July.
That's starting this weekend.
It's already building, so we're already seeing it. But at the same time, this configuration is in a really uncomfortable friction relationship with his son, with his whole way of being. There's something happening that he cannot escape. It's like a mosquito at night when you're camping and you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's also opening a door into that signature I mentioned, his money signature. So, and it's doing stuff with his emotional security as well. Things just don't feel right at all to him, and they are not going to.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised. May 29 is an awfully early date for this trial to be over with, but
It could be.
there could be a conviction by then.
What'd they say? 4 to 6 weeks? 4
Yep.
to 8 weeks? That would fit.
There could be a conviction by then. And if not then, there are some other periods this summer where Saturn closing in on him. July is a really difficult time. And then August, I've seen him either in court on a federal charge or convicted on something else in August. So those of you who are running around screaming, what's going to happen? It's here. We are in the time that has been foretold has arrived.
I know. I do see the cynicism. I did kind of speak to that a little bit, like, because I was pulling cards about how the American people were feeling, and I just got like the 8 of Swords, and people were feeling like nothing's going to happen to him. Nothing's going to happen to him, which we really can't go there. We have to strive to stay in the, justice is happening.
Well, and I'll also tell you, just without going into detail as to why I'm seeing this, I won't explicate it, but looking at the the transits, looking at what's going to be in the sky when that gag order hearing is set, it seems to be teed up for a huge fine.
On the
I'll be
full moon.
surprised if he gets thrown in jail now for that. But some kind of containment will come as a result of this. And again, everybody, containment doesn't necessarily mean we get to see him go walking off to Rikers or something.
That's what we all want.
I know. But there are other things going on. So
Now,
I just want to throw out one other thing, just as a personal point of pride. A friend of mine was outside the Manhattan courthouse yesterday and got herself twice into the New York Times for her statements.
You're proud of her?
Yes, I'm very proud of her. I wonder if I had the nerve to go
do it. She gets a bell.
Yeah. Sue, if you are listening, I
hope she's here.
She sometimes does.
Somebody said kaboom.
So
Speaking of kaboom, we mentioned before, like this month always feels pretty volatile. And actually, Heather Cox Richardson's newsletter today,
oh God,
cited several things throughout history. One was Abraham Lincoln's assassination.
He died.
Yeah,
he died on April 15th.
April 15th. I mean, it's the Boston Marathon, which was yesterday, same day. The bombing. That was a terrible, terrible day. And then we mentioned that April 19th being the anniversary of tragic events in America. And so when you say this is going to be the most important time of the year, and it's the 19th, 20th, that time period when the sun goes into Taurus, I don't know, I'll speak for myself, I get a little nervous. Well, yeah, the earth was shaking between the time we talked last and right.
Epicenter, Bedminster.
That's pretty cosmic. Of all the places that it could have been,
it was within like a couple of miles of Bedminster.
And you and somebody else mentioned it, but I didn't notice that was like a hot topic in other, circles.
No, but anyway. It was like giants jumping on my roof. It was a very bizarre experience.
Yeah.
What is this sound?
I didn't feel it. I don't know anybody that felt it here. But that came up because Marjorie Trader Green, we like to call her, was saying that we all have to repent.
Right, yeah.
That the pot calling the kettle black. And that, somebody noted on some YouTube channel, I forget who it was, that it actually hit at the epicenter was Bedminster. So what'd she have to say about that? Like it's a sign for the Democrats to repent or something. I don't know. Doesn't seem like she read that one right.
I don't think so. Can I throw in the other astrological thing before we get sucked into charts that would be useful to people?
Yeah, we want to know.
Annette, you mentioned there's a full moon coming.
There's a full moon on the day that he has to be in court.
Right. Yeah, the full moon. The full moon on the 23rd is at the very beginning of the sign of Scorpio. So it is not an eclipse, but it may feel like one because bunch of reasons. Scorpio is an incredibly intense sign. And this one is in a very intense relationship with Pluto, which makes things like it's like everything. I don't know if anyone ever saw the triple action sprays, the alleged magical properties sprays and washes and stuff. If you ever went to a Botanica, maybe you had to live in a Hispanic area to see these things. But at any rate, so why I bring this up is this full moon is a terrific dumping ground for anything that gets stirred up in you that you haven't really processed yet. I mean, and you can then dump it out. This is a great moon for taking out the garbage, for cleaning things out, for I actually suggest a ritual of writing down whatever you want to get out of your life, burning the paper and flushing it down the toilet and watching the ashes go down the toilet.
I love that idea. And if anyone needs help letting go, call me. I'm a spiritual life coach and we really get into it. Speaking of Scorpio, Joe Biden's a Scorpio.
Yes, indeed, he is.
How do you think it will affect him?
Well, it's going to be opposite his moon, and he may privately. I think the man probably does weep because he actually feels things.
Very sensitive
He's a
person. Yeah.
human, so
Yeah. But he's very sensitive. Some people don't cry, but he
I
feels.
suspect he does, and I also suspect he's been through a lot, and maybe there'll be a moment where he can finally, like after you when you're involved in something where you have to be on point all the time, and then the danger
Yeah.
passes, and then when you can kind of fall apart a bit, bet
Yeah.
I bet that will be what happens with him. We won't see it.
Yeah, he's really averted a lot for the world. Really, he's really helped to
Keep
lead
the
us
world
out.
from blowing up. Yes.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I'm sure it's incredibly stressful, and like we can't even imagine. So when people bash him, it's just a terrible, terrible, visceral feeling that I have. Thank you, Catherine, for your donation. Much appreciated. So yeah, I think that Biden's doing amazingly well. I see good things for Biden.
Oh, so do I. So do I. Uh, So I just want everyone to know that you have immediately are going to have a place to acknowledge and purge, and you may not even have to consciously understand. But we go 24/7 in what I call persistent traumatic stress syndrome. It's not we haven't hit the post part. It'll be a while before we hit the post part. So this is going to be a moment of just acknowledging yourself. Oh crap, have I been through it? And letting yourself get it out of your cells, get it out of your system. I mean, do some purging.
So, and collectively, I think, yeah, I really do think we have to pause and look at what we have been through,
Yeah. This is
especially
not stopping.
Trump. It's just been so trying. Um,
But it'll be a lot different by next spring.
you know that I'm moving
Yeah, in what, in 2 weeks?
totally. Yeah, by May 1st, this is all going to be changed. I think I'll keep my chair, even though it needs to be replaced. There's certain things that feel like home. But what you're saying is exactly that, and it really just feels like change is inevitable. That's why I have on my arm this too shall pass, and I constantly remind myself, even when I don't want to go, even when I want to stay things to stay the same with my moon and Taurus, that kind of makes me feel that way. We just have to go with it. We cannot avoid change. So it sounds like this is a really good time for that.
And there's an interesting aspect of it that something you said just reminded me of. I mentioned that it's in a very challenging relationship to Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio. There is something in this full moon that is allowing us to get rid of emotions or fears or just
Yeah.
gunk that isn't appropriate for the way our collective relationships are evolving. So this is a moment of updating to go into more of Pluto in Aquarius.
Does this involve being more involved?
For some people it will, but for other people it is an element of finding what your collective is, what your group is, what your tribe is.
Mm-hmm. What is the Uranus aspect going to do to the planet, do you think? What's your guess?
Well, I mean, it could have had something to do with the earthquakes that we've been seeing lately. I don't know. I mean, there could a grid could go down. I don't want to freak people out, but technology is involved here, and it's always useful to go look back to the last time it happened. The last time that Jupiter and Uranus were conjunct in Taurus was 1941, May 1941, and there was Victory Gardens were a big deal. So maybe there's something happening with the spread of community gardens or growing things and sharing it with your neighbors.
That would be
That's
lovely.
one.
Yeah.
I see like indoor gardening, hydroponic stuff, or technology being involved in that in some way. But in 1941, Alan Turing broke the Enigma code, and it led to that was part of what it still took a few years, but he broke the Nazis' code and that it also started computer technology. It's the outgrowth of that. So there are things going on now that it's going to take a while. Also, women's roles started changing a whole lot. Now, I know you asked about the planet. I got a few other things about that in a second, but because we were gearing up for war and military enlistment went higher and higher and higher, women started going into the workforce. Women started going into the military. Women's roles started changing, so women were activated by this. Ooh, what's happening now? Women are activated. I would not be surprised if we have unleashed women being the majority of politicians. Not like this year.
But you're
But
saying 1941,
mhm.
women went into the military?
As an outgrowth, okay, women started going into the workforce, and then this opened the door to ultimately they were more in the military, although they weren't like, running around holding guns and stuff, but whacks and waves, and there were
Right, yeah. Women weren't allowed into the military till what, the 60s or 70s?
no. There were corps. There were like little sisters for fraternities.
Oh, okay.
But women had roles, or the waves were the women in the Navy, and the whacks were the women in the Army Corps. I don't know. Anyway, at this time, also, conservation projects were really big. Soil conservation, land conservation, Social Security and the Securities Exchange Commission were both founded. There were all kinds of things that if you just kind of keep on the lookout now, there will be innovations. That's the positive thing growing out of this. They're not going to happen on Saturday, but they're going to grow out of this moment in time.
Well, I think, according to my psychic impression, a lot of them are like, so many are already here.
Mm-hmm.
So many advancements, and and taking care of the environment and green energy, they're already here. It's not like we don't have them, right? But I like what you're saying. I think that it's a wonderful time for that, and it has to happen. When you mentioned cracking the code, just kind of a different area of what you're talking about, I wonder if we're going to find out more about what's been going on with our enemies, like how they've been infiltrating us.
Oh, well, it's been through technology, so yeah, that would fit completely.
Well, yeah, we all know that.
No, but I mean, social media, you name it. But I think that'll become real clear.
So if there were something like a cyber attack that took down, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just kind of seeing how what you're saying can relate. Would that be a Uranus thing?
Yeah, because Uranus deals with technology.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Is that more likely during like this weekend with what's happening, or no?
I don't.
Just curious.
There could be something.
Look out for it.
There could be something that happens that then leads to redoing how certain systems go.
That I really think we're in a time of correcting things so we can move forward and we can all kind of make it. You know what I mean? Like the whole reason for, just speaking on the political front, the whole reason for Donald Trump is, look at how many things we need to fix. It's like that we'll be forced to fix because he just was this big wrench in the works. Anyway, fascinating. I think it's exciting to have all these changes coming. It feels like changes with breakthroughs.
Oh, yeah.
It's always good to have a new way of approaching things. All right, who do we have to look at? What nefarious characters do we have to look at? I threw out a few.
Let's just really quick. Let's just knock this one off really quickly. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's got a real problem on her hands. Okay.
Good.
She has a real problem on her hands, and
I'll stop gloating.
It will. If it's easy to do.
She used to drive me so crazy when she
Me too. So I don't have a time of birth for her. I have a solar chart, and you can get accurate information from that. That means that, well, anyway. So the eclipse happened in her house of other people's money.
Yeah.
And it was
Taxpayers.
opposite uh, opposite her Saturn. There will be consequences, and this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that I mentioned is on the doorway to her career house. Um, things are changing for her. Let's just leave it at that. Okay,
Well,
things are changing.
but I have to ask you if you think that she might go to jail.
Oh, I didn't look at it from that perspective. Let's look.
Is there something in there, some astrological configuration that cites with the
On. Huh. Well, she's going to have real trouble in June. By June, things are going to be talked about and really open. And does that mean she's going? I don't know.
She stole from the people. What do they call it? Pedestal gate? I don't know.
Lectern gate.
Lectern gate.
Oh, yeah, her dad is real powerful, but
Yeah,
I suspect that the eclipse broke some protection that she's had from him.
Yep.
I don't know whether she will go to jail or not. But I will not be surprised if there are vast consequences, and they also involve her career.
I like pedestal gate. It knocks her off her pedestal.
Why,
Do you really think she's something? So annoying. Lock her up. So Charlie.
Oh God. Well, here's what I found horrible. She's born in the same town as Clinton, as Bill Clinton. She's from Hope, Arkansas. How can that be?
You know, there's probably some terrible people where you were born.
How can I be? Anyway.
Wherever you were born, there was probably a terrible person in that city. That wasn't you.
My birth town gets lots of bad press.
Yeah, the counter to your light. There was probably some nefarious
terrible. Oh, but my birth town's also home of Mr. Rogers, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh.
I love Mr. Rogers. I miss him.
Yep.
Mr. Rogers saved me.
I watched him when I was in junior high. Oh yeah.
When I was just neglected and forgotten, Mr. Rogers was there going, "You're special."
I used to have. I wrote to him. I made pillows for Daniel and X. I think. I don't know what possessed me to do this, and I sent them to him.
Are those his kids or something?
Daniel Striped Tiger, the tiger that lived in the clock.
Oh, yeah.
And then X the owl who lives in the tree. Come on. Come on. The program here.
I remember Daniel the tiger. I didn't know his last name.
And one of the big moments of my recent life was when Betty Aberlin followed me on Twitter, and I get messages from her, and I'm like, "It's Lady Aberlin!"
Oh my gosh, these people are still around. That's amazing.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Oh, that's so cool.
Anyway,
we should do Mr. Rogers' chart sometimes, even though he's.
It's amazing.
I bet.
If ever a saint walked among us.
Yeah.
Dot.
He's still with us in spirit.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so Sarah Huckabee, it looks bad for her. She's probably going to lose her job as governor. She loves to send children to work in factories. We don't want anything to do with it.
I don't understand that.
Honestly.
Anyway. Okay, so let's just get it over with. Mike Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Mike Johnson's in big trouble.
Yeah, he's acting like it.
The eclipse happened on his Mars.
He's all over the place. Don't you think he's all over the place, kind of? He's just like, wah! He's just freaking out.
Well, it also, yeah, and so the impact of the eclipse on his chart, I had written some time ago, jettison on his chart from this eclipse, like the ejector seat.
You wrote jettison?
I did, yeah. Like, so the ejector seat the ejector button has been hit. Remember May 29. He may last that long. He may not.
He's hanging on by a thread. And when he went to Mar-a-Lago, what was going on that day? Was that last weekend?
And suddenly he's planting the seed. Oh, illegals are going to vote. Yeah, we got the coups just.
Yeah, there's that. And then today he's kind of turning around and saying, I always thought Ukraine would get their aid eventually, but they're going to suffer a lot of damage and, a lot of loss in the interim. But he's kind of saying he's going to bring the vote to the floor. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've seen
News
that.
today? Do you think he will? I think he will.
Okay.
You don't?
I don't have a strong opinion about that. My strong opinion is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is in fact a danger to him.
Is she a danger to the United States?
Well, with what I've been talking about, she's activating the ejector button. So
Right.
and you could look at it like, oh yeah, she filed this thing and she's just not going to get anywhere. Well, it might. She's making things really difficult for him,
And
and
you have her chart too, right?
they're karmically bound. All right, they're karmically bound.
I see.
She's like the giant boot in the sky on top of him. Oh boy. So there's kind of dominatrix stuff between him and her.
So now I can't erase that from my mind.
Stiletto heel. I want you to think that. Stiletto heel. Marjorie. Well, actually, she wouldn't wear a stiletto heel. What would
that clean?
She'd be wearing Vans or something.
She was in a past life. I picked up that she was a torturer.
Oh, color me surprised.
I know. Totally fits.
So that eclipse for her sent her on the warpath, but it really activated her like her deepest fears and discomfort with herself.
Interesting. That's
I
interesting.
think she's very uncomfortable with being a woman.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. Yeah.
I'm not saying she wants to be a man. I just think she looks uncomfortable with being a woman and women's roles. No, she's got a real strong fighter streak. I want to kick somebody's teeth in.
Yeah, she's a bully. She's a big bully. I've sensed from her lately that she's hoping that it will work. You know, when you see these people that are such liars, they're hoping it'll work and they hope that you'll buy it, but they really feel uncertain. They're just feigning, power, feigning that they know what they're doing or they know what's going to happen.
She definitely makes it up as she goes along.
Yeah.
Things are going to be really tight for her by August. And Christmas is not going to be a happy time. Now, there are a lot of people who are predicting that she will get reelected just because that's the way things are in her district. But she might not stay very long.
She's not going to get reasected. I keep seeing Jack Smith coming after her.
Oh, I would not be surprised because there are a couple of times that Saturn's going to be going over a critical point in her chart. And the one that's the gotcha moment is around Christmas Eve. What a nice Santa. What a nice Santa.
Merry Christmas, Marge.
Yeah.
And I want
Happy holidays. Oh, you know what?
Mention too that when I was doing a reading recently, I saw MAGA Mike and Marjorie Taylor Greene getting in trouble together.
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Well, she might have some kind of weird money connection with him.
I felt like it. Yeah, that checks out in my psychic mind. I feel like it had something to do with their involvement in January 6th. And it feels like it would be around the same time. They both get in trouble around the same time for their involvement.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
You have Jack's chart?
Oh, you know what? No, he's more likely. His big trouble is August. His big trouble is August.
He's going to get busted for his involvement, I think.
Hers things might already start happening by then, but the vice closing in on her isn't till Christmas. So he might be in the first wave, and you'd think she'd be in the first wave since she was meeting in the White House before she was even sworn in. But who knows? We'll just see. We'll see how this all plays out.
But it is kind of volatile for both of them.
Yes, I would not want to be either of them for so many reasons.
What else did I ask you about?
Oh, You asked me about Aileen Cannon, and I have weird tidings in that regard, and that is a second birth date has popped up for her. So I don't know which chart is right. There's a November 17 birth date and a February 1st birth date, and somebody on Medium claims they found February 1st in public records, but doesn't say what public records. So I don't know if either one of these is actually correct. The one I have been working with, which has her as a Scorpio, has real trouble by the end of August.
Let's pendulum it. I thought we read on her before.
We did, but that's before this other birth date showed up.
All right, what are the options?
November 17 or February 1.
Is it February 1? No. She's a Scorpio.
I'm so glad I didn't want her to be in the Aquarius camp.
Let me just go. Yeah, you don't want to.
If that's the case, this conjunction that I've been talking about, if she is a November 17, 1981 colleague, Columbia, she was born in Columbia. It's 1981, either date. That year apparently is accurate. If it's the November 17 date, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is smack on top of her abiding wound, which has to do with money and position and status. I think it's unlikely that this weekend somebody's going to finally go, oh, look at what ended up in her bank account. Oh. But some things could start to come out. I mean, I find it really odd. Chiron in Taurus. I find it really odd that pretty much the only writing sample that she offered when she was up for a judgeship was not a legal paper, but apparently it was like a blog entry on a fashion event.
I don't feel like she's qualified to be a judge. I don't know how she got in there. It's like she acts like she just got out of middle school.
Well, my reason for bringing that up is Chiron in Taurus would pay a lot of attention to appearance because there would be a sense of discomfort. So if that is really what she wrote, it would make sense. Anyway, so if this is the correct chart, the clock is ticking and it starts going off in a big way by the end of August. All these things by the end of August. Jack Smith's chart by the end of August. I don't know if that's when he gets out, if there are consequences, who knows what. At this point, it's unlikely that particular trial will start before the election. I think it's much more likely the January 6th one will in front of. But there's something. There is something for her that is definitive by the end of August.
So do you? So do you think maybe she'll get booted?
Or she might decide, you know what, I will salvage what is left of what I have and go. I don't know.
I was picking up on some serious meetings behind the scenes with some criminal characters.
That would fit.
Yeah, and it's so strong. I hate how strong this impression is because it's very disturbing. It's the same kind of energy as when Trump got into the White House and he invited those Russian diplomats.
Oh my God! Yeah, the people who were on the sanction list, he let them in.
Yeah, it's the same kind of a feeling. That that I can't even tell you how strong this is, and you probably feel it too. That when MAGA Mike went down to Mar-a-Lago last weekend to kiss the ring, or you know what, like people like to say. That whole energy around him, it's like I feel a Russian influence, and I feel that she's in on that. Not directly, but indirectly. It's the same group, like Russian mafia.
I wouldn't argue. Argue.
Yeah. So I think that we're ready for that to come to light. Like I got the Sun card on Trump the other night, and that had to do with the solar eclipse and everything coming to light. Do we see something like that? Like everything coming to light in terms of what they're doing behind the scenes? Colluding with
Early
Bill?
June, early June, early
Okay.
June.
All right. Well, that's right around the corner. What shows you?
That is when Mars will be in Taurus, which is money, banking system, resources, and it will square Pluto in Aquarius.
So we might find out
I
about
mean,
the
there could be something that comes out. Yeah.
in
Or
next.
maybe next
It
things
seems
could already
sooner.
be knocked loose. They could already be
Yeah.
knocked loose and
Yeah.
around there.
It seems June's pretty. That's pretty close. It seems soon. It doesn't seem like it's far off. That we just like we heard about that Smirnov, the Russian spy that the losers, so many of them, that Comer Pyle, and Jimmy Jim Jordan, and all that. They were. It's the same kind of thing. I mean, he's a Russian spy feeding all kinds of misinformation.
What is so weird to me about this is a month before the 2016 election, I was in a several-day continuing legal education program in New York City about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And someone was presenting this huge thing about how they were actually in real time fighting off attacks from Honey Bear, which was one of the names of the Russian, and like there was one that started with a G, but this is before it was in the news. This guy's up there telling this huge group of attorneys about, and then they come and then we do this and this and that, like having cyber warfare.
What they were actually doing. That's so interesting because I've said for years we've been in a war with Russia. It's just not a traditional war. We have been at war with Russia.
But I thought it was so freaking weird to be in a room hearing about all this stuff and then have it in the news and go, what? Okay, that's very strange.
Yeah. It wasn't maybe directly in the Mueller report, but maybe it was. Maybe it was all in the Mueller report. The cyber war. Do you think that the Mueller report is going to rise up again to the surface and be re-looked at?
I don't know. I do remember when it was released, there were aspects that were like Mercury retrograde to the 15th power.
Yeah.
I mean, there are these huge Neptunian aspects going on. And I knew at the time, like, Barr isn't telling the truth. And I'm not sure people who didn't train as lawyers can fully appreciate the sickness, the sick feeling of watching somebody who's in an elevated position in your profession do patently.
Yeah.
Patently.
He was a lawyer, right?
He is a lawyer, but the Supreme Court, I mean, I used to have to leave the library reading an opinion by Justice Rehnquist because they were just so factually off. But now we've got justices lying about the facts in their opinions. And Barr was doing that. And I encourage everybody to go watch the A block of Rachel Maddow's April 15th show because she shows how the federal investigation into what is now on trial in Manhattan, how that was killed by Barr, by the Justice Department.
Yeah. When I listen to Rachel Maddow, I have to turn her off at some point because I just get too upset about what she's saying.
Well, this is like, okay, great.
Not denial, just like it's that bad,
No,
and
no.
you're really dramatizing it and making me feel hopeless.
Well, but anyway, I want to say one other thing before we go, and that is the justice who just did not show up for work yesterday, and
Clarence Thomas.
who's today sitting in on a case that has to do with January 6th, did not recuse himself.
Go.
Well, I don't see how he's still functional. There is stuff.
That goes for
Stuff going on with his wife. There's stuff going on with his heart. There's stuff going on with his health.
You read on that before,
right? But we're in the period where it's all being activated. It's all being activated in a huge way, and by I really think he is not well. I think she is not well, and I mean she more than mentally is not well. And watch the end of May for him.
They
Watch
don't look
the end of May.
healthy. Neither one of them look healthy.
No, but end of May, mid July, end of July. I mean end of August. He's got. Uh, yeah, that's just leave it like that.
He didn't show up where on Monday?
He didn't show up at work. There were hearings at the Supreme Court, and he didn't even call in and do it remotely. He just did not show. No one will say where he was yesterday.
Oh, but that should have been on the news. And you sent me the article. I didn't read the whole article. But
Right? No, when it all gets drowned. Big stuff happens, and it gets buried.
I know. Look how much it's gotten drowned because of Trump.
Yep.
And Manhattan. Crazy.
Yep. We're in the time we've been waiting for, everybody. Okay, just know that. Pace yourself.
Justice.
Have your little celebratory beverage now and again. Take a lot of naps. Have some fun.
You said you had some astrology toys. I have.
Oh no! What? I have a talking magic 8 ball.
Yeah, you have an 8 ball too. We both put on an 8 ball.
But he's not talking. I have another 8 ball. I have one
talking.
that has this sad eye on it.
Did you already have an 8 ball? I just ordered this a few weeks ago.
Oh, I used to have an 8 ball on my desk in my law office, and when clients wouldn't make a decision, I'd shove it in front of them and say, "Ask the executive decision maker," and then they would immediately know.
Yeah, but I have a kind of an indecisive 8 ball. It gives me nebulous answers.
That's the way of the 8 ball. I also have a dog bird 8 ball, but he's not showing up too well anymore. And I also really have it in for Scott Adams because he was a jerk to me. You got a question? Mine is.
Are we going to do well in America? What I mean is Trump going to be gone? What do you say?
8 ball joins as special guest.
Oh.
It says.
I've been reading the.
Oh, come on. Oh.
I know it takes a while, doesn't it?
No, this one's a multi-sided one. It says.
Yeah, mine too.
Absolutely.
I feel it. It's like once we get these. Is it talking now?
It started to talk. Oh, no, I can't hear it. Oh, darn. He's been working for years, and today he stopped.
April, no fearsies.
Oh, man, I have a huge divination collection. I have toys like you've never heard of.
Probably. Every show, we should bring a new one out.
Yeah.
The 8 ball's kind of generic. Do you have a question for mine?
Or
somebody?
Will Trump be put in his own special little place during the trial? There are things they can do short of sending him to jail. They can put him in another room. Will the judge take Trump out of the courtroom during the trial?
Is there a jail in the courtroom?
No, it can just go someplace where he's not in the room, but he's there.
Will he? Do you have your talking Zolar?
Oh, I'll go get him. Hold on.
We might go overtime. Is Trump going to be reined in? All right, let's see.
I can find it.
The stars say no.
Let's see what Zoltar says. I have to turn him on.
Is he going to be reined in? But this hasn't been very extra accurate.
8 balls are kind of weird.
Yeah.
I got mine because in the 90s, my best friend was working for a mortgage company, and he decided that a magic 8 ball was the explanation for the kind of random answers he was getting from one of his departments. So I bought him a magic 8 ball, but he got one too before I gave it to him. So we each asked our magic 8 ball if it were the smarter one, and each one said it was smarter than the other one. Okay.
Hear your fortune from Zoltar. Dream as if you'll live forever. Live as if you'll die today. That's right. You must live your days as if they were your last. Because one day they will be. You know what I mean.
Well,
this too shall pass.
Well, yep.
So anyway, in other words, we're all worried about all this stuff about Trump in the country and everything, but don't forget to live your life at the same time. Don't forget to enjoy your life. That's what I took from that. Have fun too. Be involved and have fun. And join us at Grassroots of Democracy, grassrootsofdemocracy.com. All right, let's see. My pendulum is giving me a definite maybe about Trump being taken out of the court. I get nebulous answers on him because I think his health is going to do him in. And Clarence Thomas. Yeah, so that's why I don't see him on the ballot. And now with all this crazy behavior, it's just becoming very, very evident. It really is. So I guess we're to the end. It's 5:01 here.
Well, wait a minute before we run. What do you have going on? Because it helps people to hear it.
Yeah. Psychicandetdion.com is where you book a reading. And Church of Spirituality is at 1:00 on Sundays here. Oh, here are our slides. Grassrootsofdemocracy.com. Join us to help us save our country from fascism. And yeah, that's tonight. We have a meeting tonight. And every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 Eastern live streaming. It's a psychic party. We have a great time talking about the news. And when you join my YouTube channel, you get a daily affirmation. They're helping me. So you get a daily affirmation, and at the higher levels, you get invited to an actual psychic party where I kind of do readings for people, and we have fun there too. And 10% off a reading. Grassroots of Democracy is there. That's all I have for now, as far as I know. I always do forget something. Oh, I'm on Substack. Grassroots of Democracy group. So, and please subscribe. It's free, and share. Get the word out. Your turn.
I have an article. This tips to keep you from freaking out. All right. And this is on somebody else's Substack. So then I already have my forecast up, or it will be going up tomorrow for next week's Scorpio full moon. But you see at my site, I've got a forecast for every month, for every new moon and full moon, for every week. And they are double posted on my YouTube channel, which is Professional Aquarian. I also have a Patreon /Kathy Beal where, these are the types of readings you can get with me. That is my dead cat reading my laptop there on the left.
She's not dead there.
No, she was not dead there. She actually was looking at, she was scary how she would read.
She's in spirit.
Sasha. This is my YouTube channel where I also post recordings of my radio show, which I do twice a month on Om Times Radio and TV on the first and third Monday of every month. And there are wide-ranging topics, really interesting ones. Coming up, I've got a friend of mine who won the Nobel Peace Prize for nuclear disarmament work. I'm serious. As an expression of the power of Pluto in Aquarius. So you learn all kinds of stuff about things that are going on to protect the world that you didn't even know are there.
And that's on your YouTube channel?
Right. Yeah. Seth's coming on in May. If you're in New York, I'm heavily involved in Marx Fest, which is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Marx's Broadway debut. I was in the revival, and the first weekend is there's my Patreon. Okay, lots of info at Patreon, all kinds of stuff. You can one of the tiers is Ask Me Almost Anything, and people ask me questions once a month. I answer questions. Anyway, Marx Fest is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Broadway debut, and the second weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend, will be at Coney Island, USA, and I'm doing a presentation on the astrology of the Marx brothers and their relationship with their mother, who was the prototypical stage mother, absolutely enmeshing personality. And the other thing is, if anybody is near Delaware, I will be in the Biden's backyard on Saturday, May 4th at Browse About Books from 2 to 4, signing my book, Confessions of a Third-Rate Goddess, Tracing Through a World Gone Weird. And please join me in visualizing Flotus walking into the store with her security detail and coming over to find out what this intriguing-looking book is and talking to me. That's my wish. So
yeah, we can visualize that. And speaking of that, I actually feel like our guided meditations and all the prayers and meditations that people are doing for our country and our world are definitely showing.
Oh, they're working.
They're showing. Yeah. There are some miraculous things happening all the time. So let's so come to 20 on Tuesdays tonight, grassrootsdemocracy.com. Do you ever feel like you're just too talented and you just have too many talent?
I have a Marx Fest meeting tonight, so I can't be at Grassroots of Democracy.
All right. Okay, oh talented one. We'll see you next time. I think it's going to be the 30th. Ooh, we'll have to talk about that because
you might not be able to.
give
That's fine.
myself
We'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right,
Okay.
thank you, everybody. Please donate and book readings with Kathy and book readings with me. What is that noise? Is that you?
That was another phone going off. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right,
got
that
three.
means we're done.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. See you soon. Bye.